that.
All right.
Dr. Brenner, do you see how they treat me? That's just how they treat me. That's how they all treat me, except for Yvonne.
Yes, I'm very nice to everyone.
Yep.
Trevor, I feel your pain. I
Yeah.
can relate.
It's only with love, I'm sure.
It is.
Yeah.
I think with Gallagher. I'm not quite sure about Gallagher, but I'm guessing with love.
This is horrible. Well, if I'm going to be accused of it, I might as well wear it, right?
Guess so.
Who do we have here? We got Yvonne, Mr. Miller, Mr. Tuma, myself,
Councilman Sweeney has joined too. He's here.
Sweeney.
They wanted you to assume that.
I just want to forewarn you, Trevor, with Marty now joining us, when we go back to the office, he's probably gonna be pulling your leg too. He called me the other day talking about, because I put a meeting on St. Patty's Day. Yvonne, why did you put it on St. Patty's Day? And I had to think, because I'm always so
Yeah.
respectful for all those holidays, but I'm like, it's virtual. Nobody's gonna have a parade. And he pulled my chain about that. So
he's
look
already
forward-
started pulling my leg virtually too, so he's
I
already
figured-
joined in the fun.
He's a new wise guy that joined.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have done that too. I actually would not probably.
Marty, I say that with love, though. Remember that.
I know, but just checking. I follow my chair's lead.
Hey, Mike and Janine, we are live on YouTube now. I believe you do have a quorum. So I guess whenever you two are ready.
Okay, is Miss Simon available yet?
Hi, Mike, it's Janine. I don't see Sunny or Purnell yet.
Okay, if you could just ping Sunny and Purnell, because I know they were both very interested in.
I'm texting them now.
Joe, I texted Purnell.
But we can move forward if everybody's set. Janine, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome everyone to this is the Public Safety and Justice Affairs Committee meeting this Tuesday, February 16th on a cold, snowy, blustery Cleveland, Northeast Ohio day. Go figure. Hope everybody's safe. There's Sunny. And I'd like to welcome everyone that has been invited for this discussion. If you would call the roll, please.
Calling the roll, Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Ms. Conwell.
Present.
Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones is absent at the moment. Ms. Simon.
Here.
There's a quorum. Also like the record to reflect that council members Sweeney and Miller are in attendance.
Welcome, Councilman Sweeney and Miller. And do we have public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one submitted any public comment.
In your packet, we have the minutes of the February 2nd meeting. If they're in order, I'll accept a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
So moved. Conwell.
I'll take that as the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Against? Thank you. Matters referred to committee. If you could read this into the record, Janine.
Resolution number 2021-0036, authorizing an amendment to contract number 128 with Ozan Construction Company for design build services for the central booking project at the Cuyahoga County Justice Center.
Thank you. We invited a list that was given to us from the administration on the important individuals and groups that were to partake in discussions regarding the central booking project. We held it in committee because of some of the information that we weren't getting last time. And in some discussions with those that were involved, there seemed to be some miscommunication and some concern that this might be moving too quickly. And the last thing we want to do, if we've learned anything from our past is to be moving too quickly, especially on a project that I think we can all agree is vital, is certainly necessary to move our justice system a little bit more easily forward. So we want to kind of hear from those that have been invited. All of you that have been invited, if you're not speaking, if you would please just mute. That helps our stream out a little bit better. And randomly, could I hear from the invitees that are here? Don't worry about.
Hi, Councilman Gallagher. This is Naila Bird, Clerk of Courts, and I am in attendance. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Naila.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Council. This is Judge Early, Cleveland Municipal Court.
Thank you, Judge.
Rhonda Gibson, Administrator of Corrections.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Hi, Councilman Brendan Sheehan, Common Police Court.
Hi, Judge.
Good afternoon, Marty Flask, across the street here in the Mayor's Office, City of Cleveland.
Thank you, Mr. Flask.
Good afternoon, Aquila Jordan, City of Cleveland Prosecutor's Office.
Welcome, Ms. Jordan.
Good afternoon, Lisa Williamson from the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office.
Hello again, Lisa. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good. Thanks for joining.
Good afternoon. This is Jill Smilek from Cuyahoga County's Witness Victim Services.
I'm sorry, your last name again?
Jill Smilek.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Welcome. Is that all? I'm just going through here. All right, Mr. Shaughnessy, I see.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. I just walked back in. I apologize.
That's all right. That's all right. Okay, I had a list. I want to go over it. Not everyone is here, and if they jump in, that's great. I had Clerk Bird, the public defender, Cullen Sweeney, individuals from the criminal defense bar, Cleveland prosecutor Jordan, the Cleveland bar, Metro Hospital, Judge Sheehan, Prosecutor O'Malley's office, Cleveland Muni Court and clerk, County Probation, County Witness Victim, Cleveland Police, and the Cleveland Safety Representatives. Most of us are here, and I think I would like to kind of freeform this because we're somewhat where you're at as far as where this project is right now. And Judge Early, could you take the lead on this? Because I think we've established in our previous meeting that the buy-in from the Cleveland Municipal Court's going to be one of, if not the most important parts of this puzzle. And if you could just take us to where you think we're at and where we need to go.
Okay, good afternoon. I think that there's probably a number of things, Councilman Gallagher, that is happening before you get to Cleveland Municipal Court with centralized booking, and I'll allow the some of the other people to kind of deal with that. We have worked with Judge Sheehan and I and Prosecutor O'Malley have worked through a process to where once what's happening in the jail with centralized booking and having someone down in the Sally Port to be processed through the centralized booking program, that they're going to come up to the Cleveland Municipal Court, and they're going to have a process where we're going to be arraigning them within 48 hours or as quickly as they can be charged. We are working with Common Pleas Court, Judge Sheehan, in terms of partnering with them and regarding the bond reform resources. So pulling our pretrial services departments together to work in conjunction with that so that they can then be transferred to Common Pleas Court. and people can flow through the process more succinctly and quicker. The issue before Councilman Gallagher and the committee had been, we had not worked out kind of the process of where Cleveland Municipal Court was in the process. And that was the concern for me in terms of what my buy-in was going to be, because I needed to know what part of the process we were going to be involved in, and if we were going to be involved in that process at all. So we are on board with the process that I've just outlined for you.
Thank you. It just seemed, and I know you were watching at least part of the last meeting, if not all of
I actually
it.
watched all 80 minutes of it.
All 80 minutes. Well, we
I
are
wish I
one of
had
the,
somebody's phone number, I would have texted you.
oh, well, that's why they call this committee the fun bunch. You know, we just get all the easy stuff.
Fun bunch, right.
But I think you
And
saw.
thanks for the invite.
Oh, like I say, you are the users and the most important part of this, and getting everybody on the same page seems to be a little bit of an issue. We've had instances in the past where we've moved forward maybe a little too quickly and gotten our own way. We want this to work, and we want it to be as smooth as it can be. And I know nothing is smooth, especially dealing with the justice system. But I'd be more comfortable, and correct me if I'm wrong, committee, we'd be more comfortable if we knew everybody was really buying in on the same page. And when I say buying in, I don't necessarily mean that in any way people that aren't buying in right now are a blockade. They have concerns, and we want those concerns to be met as from our angle.
So, and then just so you're aware, there were some things that had not been, that we had not made decisions on as a stakeholder committee. And as a result of those decisions not being made, Councilman Gallagher, I was not comfortable completely buying in to what was going on regarding the initial appearances. You know, I'm not exactly sure if people know kind of the process of what Cleveland is doing or what we've invested in terms of our pretrial services and our bond reform, and how quickly we're getting people into court, and you know how we have sessions 6 days a week. And I'm not trying to make this the Cleveland Municipal Court show. I just kind of want to, you know, there was a number of things that we had kind of gotten on the forefront of in terms of making these detention decisions, and our work with the Arnold Foundation and our work with creating a pretrial services department. So there was a number of things that we had already put in place. And in the process, when we're kind of talking about what was going forward with centralized booking, we were not sure that that process was going to be incorporated. And we were trying to figure out how that process could be, how we could work in collaboration with the Common Pleas Court. We have had those discussions, and kind of that's how I've got to the place where we're okay with that. So I don't want it to seem like there was no reason for us to, or there was no concern, or that you know, you probably, thank you very much, Councilman, may have expedited a lot of these decisions and discussions. So I also appreciate that.
Okay.
And then I'm also open for any questions on the committee, because I know there are a number of people who did have some questions. So
You read my mind. I was going to go right there. So
sorry, I didn't mean to read your mind.
Stay there. Committee members, questions for Judge Early.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. Tuma.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Judge. Thanks for being here this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Just a quick question. So it sounds to me, from what I gather, everybody seems to be on board with, you know, the notion that we need to reevaluate the way we do, you know, the bond process and such. I think everybody understands that aspect, but the centralized booking, it seemed to me that there was some, I don't know if there were necessary disagreements, but maybe different approach to how you guys are doing things over in the city of Cleveland over there. So do you feel comfortable saying we're 100% vested in this new centralized booking, you know, facility that they want, that the administration is looking to move forward on? Do you feel 100% vested in it? And Judge, I don't want to cut you off, but I don't want you to feel rushed just because we're having a committee meeting that you have to make a decision today, because you don't.
So I think a portion of the cases as they're coming through centralized booking, they're not going to, they're coming through Cleveland Municipal Court. So we are going to be the first people who are looking at the cases from Cleveland Municipal Court. That is important to me because we have put a lot of resources and a lot of time and showed a lot of leadership in terms of making detention decisions. It is important to the judges of Cleveland Municipal Court that only that not everybody is detained and that we're not detaining people because they have an inability to pay. That is huge to us. And one of my concerns and one of my hesitations in being all in was the fact that there was a notion that possibly they were not going to come through Cleveland Municipal Court, and we're not in favor of that. And and that's where the concern was. That concern is not. That concern has been eliminated, and in addition to that, we're working with the Common Pleas Court so that we're not wasting time in terms of getting people to where they need to be. So, and this partnership with the Common Pleas Court regarding pretrial services is something that we really needed to have happen. I don't know how many of you guys kind of looked into the Criminal Justice Council meetings that we used to have. Part of that, what we were consistently pushing for was a partnership with the Common Pleas Court, so that if there is an obvious need for pretrial services in Cleveland Municipal Court for someone who just is going to be bound over felony court, we needed a partnership with the Common Pleas Court so that process flowed, so that we were making these detention decisions and that our decisions were then also kind of would go over to the Common Pleas Court, and we were working in partnership with them. And Judge Sheehan and I have sat down and had that conversation and are moving through that. So that's kind of why. So am I 100% bought in? I'm not going to go forward if I'm not. So I have, with the process that's in place with how we're going forward, incorporates the initial appearances in Cleveland Municipal Court, and that was my hesitation in being all in.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I hope I didn't give a long answer to it.
No, absolutely not. And so you've been working then directly with Judge Sheehan on.
Yes, absolutely.
Discussing. Okay. Have you?
And also Judge Sheehan and also Michael Malley.
Okay.
Prosecutor O'Malley.
That's what I wanted to know next. Okay.
We actually, yes, we've had conversations about this.
Okay.
So we're all on the same page regarding that.
Okay.
Judge Sheehan, I don't want to speak for you because I see you there with your smiling face. So give me the peace.
I seem to work well with Michelle's. My wife's Michelle and Michelle Early.
Well, that's a good thing, Judge, if your wife's Michelle. So.
But not me. I'm not his wife.
They're both short. Sorry, Judge Early.
Both judges.
Don't do that.
Wait a minute. Judge Sheehan, this is Councilwoman Simon. Not exactly
Hi, Sunny.
tall. Hi, Judge.
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good.
I just had to break up the story. Sorry. Hi, guys. How are you?
Good.
I will, Councilman Gallagher, I will say that Judge Early and I have met and talked, and we believe in the concept of central booking, and that it would be good for the judicial system, the justice system. I shouldn't say judicial, the justice system. And understanding Judge Early's position, I mean, we definitely believe by putting our pretrial services folks up front at that central booking location would provide better services to defendants. So Judge Early has, and the Cleveland Municipal Court has done a great job in their pretrial service department and on bail reform. We as a court believe that we're moving in a great direction that way, and that we would have those two departments communicating to each other and also moving the process quicker. So when we do, if the case does get bound over to the felony court, we certainly have our wheels moving quicker than what they are now. So that Judge Early and I have been in discussions, and we had a very good discussion with him, with Michelle Early, Michael Malley, and that's where we've been at on that.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just follow up.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher.
I'm sorry, I was muted again.
Oh, I'm
Mr.
sorry
Kuma
about that.
And then Ms. Simon, go ahead.
Okay, yes, I guess to the folks listening, how's that? So you understand council's apprehension when we're asked to move forward on a $4 million project without buy-in from every party that's impacted by this. And it's essential, Judge Early, to have, the city of Cleveland and municipal court as, partners in this. And I get that everybody's on board with the concept, but I know, based on what at least the initial plans, my understanding was there was going to be a large portion of what you folks do over in the municipal court, a reduction in what you would do as far as your participation. So that's why council had such apprehension and wanted to make sure that we're buying into this, this build out here.
So that the concept of the build out portion or the centralized booking and the charging areas and the ability to get things moving quicker that process has not changed. What we have worked together, me, Judge Sheehan, and Prosecutor O'Malley, that the initial appearances are still going to happen in the city of Cleveland. So that part has changed as opposed to kind of what initially was presented.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
And then and if I can just piggyback off what you said, and I think that with council approving such a large amount as well, that I personally don't mind having the conversation or the questions presented.
Thank you. Ms. Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here. I have a question for Judge Early about the rationale behind the build out of this central booking area is to reduce the time that arrestees might be in jail before their first appearance and to reduce the jail population along those lines. And I wondered with your pretrial service program, if that has already addressed in great part that particular concern and goal of the central booking build out.
So part of it has, but the other issue is talking about the charging aspect of it. So when we're working with, and I don't think anyone from the Cleveland clerk courts is on, but I'm going to speak on behalf of them. I don't think that they'll be upset with me for that, or they'll just text me later. Our docket is live until at least 12 in the morning. And it used to be a little bit longer, but if you are charged at 11:59, you come in the very next morning and we're putting you on the docket. And oftentimes there is a lag between when you're arrested and when you're charged. And if there is a place that the police could have that person, a process or a centralized area where they can have that person charged immediately, then we can get moving on that. As soon as someone comes into the jail, we start working on a report to provide to the judges for their hearings. So we're doing it immediately in terms of gathering information, but that person can't come in front of the court until that person is charged. And if we provided a place that a police officer can do that quickly and then get back on the road with the prosecutors being present, the city prosecutor being present, then that person can get up in front of the court in a faster manner. And it will save you a couple of days. And that may be somebody that isn't coming upstairs at all, or somebody that gets arrested at 5 o'clock, or even gets, and we're talking about potentially having additional hearings, but if they get arrested at 11 o'clock at night, they can get charged by the police officer and then get in front of me or one of my colleagues at 9 o'clock that morning. They haven't even spent 24 hours in jail if it's not necessary. We're not talking about people who are committing offenses where we know that they're going to be held. I mean, I know this is live, so I don't want people to think that, in Cleveland, we're having someone come in and it's a murder and we're saying we're releasing them. We're not talking about those type of cases. We're talking about the cases where it's someone who's coming in and maybe it's a breaking and entering or a burglar or something that's a nonviolent offense that person can be released into the community. And, we're making those decisions quickly with them having their initial appearance in front of the court. We're doing it within what the law outlines, but it can happen faster. And this centralized booking, in my opinion, will allow it to happen faster because we're putting all of those people in the same space to do that work quicker, to get them in front of a judge.
So I understand, Judge, it might be helpful to have some extra space on a particular floor to house these individuals, arrestees coming in.
Yes.
But that's different from this huge build out that has been contemplated.
So I guess I have to lean on someone else for the actual aspect of it, because I think there are some spacing allocations for different parts of the process. And then even, potentially having hearings from that space. But I think I'd probably have to rely on somebody. I'm trying to look at somebody to bail me out. I got nobody. It's like, I don't,
That's okay. We can circle back with the chair. Maybe we can get more in the weeds on what might you need to speed things up, and if it's different or, somehow overlaps with what's anticipated by the plans that we've been given to approve.
So, because I actually don't see Dever on anymore, or somebody from the county, but maybe the jail can talk about that.
Michael?
I'm on, Judge.
Oh, or Mr. Corey.
Go ahead, Bob.
So we had sent you all a handout, but if you don't have it, that's okay. So one of the things that Judge Early was talking about is that if the law enforcement had a place where they can get their incident reports done, meet with their booking sergeant, in this case, Cleveland Police Department, right? And be able to then distribute that incident report among the stakeholders like prosecutor, city, prosecutor, county, pretrial services, then the decisions that Judge Early was talking about could be made immediately. That space that she talked about is just one space in that law enforcement workroom. But in addition, in the same Sally Port, in this P1 level, you also need space for those other processes that support it, like the ability to have conference rooms for the public defender right there in the Sally Port to interview the offender. A conference room, and Cleveland Police Department asked for this specifically for their opportunity, if there's any waivers for interviews of offenders. A conference room and pretrial services area, because what Judge Early talked about is that we now have resolved the fact that those first appearances are going to be in municipal court, but Common Pleas, and Judge Sheehan's on here to enhance or correct me, has committed to working a program where Common Pleas pretrial services would be available right there at the point of arrest to do their initial assessment. That's another place that's necessary, right? And then right there in the Sally Port, once a charging decision is made, Judge Early feels confident that as long as we have the infrastructure, she can support video first appearances right from the Sally Port, into her courtroom 3D or 3C as necessary to do this. Finally, there are important jail operations that are woefully underserved. There's going to be a place for intensive medical and mental health screening that currently is undersupported in the current setup. So Metro Health and their staff can have a nice facility to be able to do those medical screenings, mental health screenings, all before, and again, all this is before the inmate ever has to go up into the jail and at the time of charging, to be done on parallel. So if the public defender is interviewing, for example, somebody, another person could be getting their medical mental health screening. If that person's getting their medical mental health screening, another person could be getting their pretrial services interview done. So all of these places exist in the scale back plan that's in P1, not just the place that Judge Early was talking about for law enforcement to get their incident reports done, which is necessary for any kind of charging decision.
Bob, have we talked with Metro regarding this?
We did, and Trevor pointed up the fact that it would be helpful, and I think Judge Bruner's also on the call, to have more detailed discussions. So we've had preliminary discussions with them. There has been preliminary discussion.
You elected Judge Bruner you can join my bench, Judge.
No, with regard to Metro Health, I thought you said Metro Health.
It's.
Yes, you called her
You called her judge.
Oh, I demoted her. How you like that?
She's a
So,
doctor.
yeah, Dr. Bruner.
Well, so are
Dr.
you
Bruner's
guys.
on the call also. So she could speak to that and she could talk about additional information she'd like to see. So I won't speak for her.
Yeah, so Laurel and Rhonda, so the jail administrator and our director of operations are working together to set up a working meeting to review the layout of central booking and its impact in relation to medical care and improving how we provide that care in that space. So I know that that's going to be coming up shortly. And that'll include the nursing teams as well as the mental health teams to really look at that layout and understand it better.
The meeting's already been scheduled for Thursday.
Excellent.
Thank you, Doctor. Bob, is there a chargeback to CPD if we're building space for them and anybody else regarding this project?
Well, they might argue that you've got a contract with them and we're building in a per diem that should account for this, and that charging infrastructure for the jail that they are agreeing to pay their per diem should come with the appropriate space for best practices. Now, having said that, there's opportunities as we continue to invest in capital and services that we look to Cleveland, our partner, for additional funding, but that hasn't been contemplated as far as a chargeback of the $2.4 million investing in this P1 infrastructure. Mr. President, we have not contemplated asking Cleveland for a chargeback on that.
Well, last time I looked, we're about $28 a day under. So if they want to renegotiate that contract, then I'll build it out for them.
Understood.
That's fine, but that'll be a discussion for another day. We'll leave it. We'll leave it at that. It always seems we get hold in the bag. That's why I asked the question. Any other questions from the committee for?
Well, if I could just say one thing about Cleveland's commitment, Cleveland Police Department, they've committed to staff the law enforcement workroom with a booking sergeant. They have agreed, which is going to take probably additional full-time equivalent time to get incident reports done before they ever leave the Sally Port, which again, those incident reports are the basis for people to make decisions about what this case is about and who we have here. And so they have committed to providing all those additional human resources to central booking that they currently do not apply. So I have to add that.
And something that's always kind of concerned me or puzzled me at least is I always sense that 24/7 booking is what is the gold standard. This seems to be central booking light. Are we building something out that can support a 24/7 booking? What's the cost to everybody involved? Cleveland, the police, the judges. If you're having 24/7 booking, you're most likely going to have legal staff, including a judge available. What's the buy-in there, if any? And that's been my greatest concern, is that we're kind of frog jumping the people that are going to really have to put some skin in the game here.
I'm going to go on the record that when I talk about the Cleveland Prosecutor's Office, Cleveland Police Department, Common Pleas Court, the County Clerk of Court, County Sheriff, Corrections, County Sheriff, Public Defender, and County Administration, I don't say loosely that they're invested in the process of central booking lightly. And that's why Judge Early, one of the reasons why Judge Early's here is because I was loath to commit Judge Early to a process, for example, with regard to where they would be charged until Judge Early was there. And so I'm saying that I'm I'm certain that all the stakeholders that I've outlined are committed to central booking, and that requires that they identify the resources. So as part of the work group, they have begun to outline the resources that they need to apply to this and determine what funding is necessary. And I'm quite confident that we've got first and second shift committed to, right? So we're doing an hourly study to see, Rhonda Gibson has already done an initial study of how they're coming in hourly throughout the day, a sampling. So we could determine whether or not, a third shift is cost effective. But first and second shift, I think we have commitment to and have identified the need for.
Yeah.
And Judge Early and her folks are looking to identify, after that 9 o'clock first appearance, additional opportunities to have their existing docket infrastructure to either support additional first appearances for those folks who come in after that midnight number that Judge Early mentioned, and to see if we can get them arraigned on that second shift too.
And it just seems to me that we don't have these numbers as far as cost are concerned for what it's going to cost Cleveland, what it's going to cost the police, what it's going to cost the other municipal courts. We haven't even touched on the other municipal courts and how we're going to process prisoners or detainees from, say, the far east side or the far west side, getting them downtown. It just seems to me it's a great idea. I understand it conceptually, but I'm not seeing any dollar figures put to the cost. And I can only assume, as again, bringing up a sore subject, we're in the middle of, well, I would contend we're still at the beginning of an ERP situation, and I don't want to fall into that again. This isn't what I would call a $2.5–3 million project. Minimally, just looking staff needs and processing, we're minimally probably doubling that. And are we getting in over our heads before we have everyone involved understanding what their costs are going to be, indeed, if they participate? And I would anticipate participation is there, but they don't know their costs. We don't know their costs. And quite honestly, that's not a councilmatic concern, other than we want the whole package put together and then presented to us, and that isn't there. And
Councilman, this is Judge Montgomery from Shaker Heights Municipal Court, and thank you for inviting me to be a listener. I really do appreciate the point you just made. I think it is important to remember that the suburban municipal courts don't pay a nickel for jail. The statute of the state requires that every municipality that arrests a person finds a place and bears the cost of incarcerating that person. And so it is, even if we were to poll all the suburban muni courts together and they agreed, the money is not coming from their pockets. It would be coming from the city of Beechwood, the city of Berea, the village of Chagrin Falls, or wherever they were. And so, but I also have a theory, and this committee's heard it, and that is, if you make it easy for law enforcement to do their job, they will be happy to bring their prisoners to a centralized facility, especially if the resources that we're all thinking about become available. But it's actually an expense that would be borne by municipalities, not municipal courts. We don't even have money in our budgets for jail. It's just statutory.
Bob, what I'm hearing from the judge and others is that, and I think from the committee, and correct me if I'm wrong, committee, we would probably be best served doing an MOU with all those concerned, so we know what's on the table. We know what's being afforded as far as our side is concerned, and that they can adjust that as they will to get to that agreement. And I just don't hear that we're there.
So as far as the staffing goes, there has been, and it was part of an outline of it was in the document that I sent on through Michelle Pomerantz, the county council, where because the issue came up at the last hearing, and Councilwoman Simon also pressed the issue of staffing requirements. So before I got here, a good staffing study had been done by the consultants based on interviews that they had with each of the stakeholders. And so I provided a staffing outline. Nevertheless, as we've said at the last meeting, the work groups are continuing to look at their staffing requirements. And so we do know that there's going to be a number of full-time equivalents. By virtue of what you're hearing from the stakeholders that are in that first phase, you're hearing that they understand that there's going to be resource requirements. Those resource requirements are not just theoretical, they are pretrial services assessors, right? And they include perhaps a booking sergeant that doesn't currently exist, but we have a place for them, right? So that has to be funded. They are aware of those requirements, not in the abstract, but in actuality, because they understand what central booking requires, and they are committing to providing those resources. Nevertheless, and you talked about a memorandum of understanding at the last council meeting, safety council meeting, and I thought you guys shied away from that, but the administration's not against the idea of a memorandum of understanding, and that's certainly something that we can pursue, so that we have that additional commitment that would reassure you. But to wait for that MOU to be completed, with all the contractees that would be involved, would be time.
Well, time well spent would be time getting everybody to buy in is the concern, I believe, of the council.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tuma.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Curry, what is there something I'm missing as far as the timing element on this? Because you brought that up a couple times. I think Mr. Mason might have brought it up. Is there a deadline that the administration has in mind for getting this done?
No, beyond, if I could be glib, justice delayed is justice denied. And the opportunity to get this in place for the current inmates is not to be overlooked, because our goal is to have this up and running operationally by August, September at the latest. Now, when you look at the timeline for a new jail, I mean, we'd be losing the opportunity to have this process, which I would believe would benefit our inmates, our correction staff, and our stakeholders immediately. It would immediately provide us benefits not only for more quality decisions, but inherently in the evidence. And one of the things you asked for last time, and we sent to you, was evidence that this has worked at jail population reduction in the past. So we'd also be missing the opportunity for another process that could tamp down population size, which benefits us immediately and provides us the evidence that you guys want in terms of what our jail population needs to look like when we go into the design build of the new jail. Currently, we're have that estimated around 1,650 with a rated capacity of 1,380. But this evidence that we get when we have diversion in place, central booking in place, can be used to make sure that we're well informed when we go to build ground. And we've heard some of the estimates about what a cell costs, but we do know how much it costs based upon per diems for jail population. We're at $122 a day now per inmate. So everything we can do now to understand and to lower the jail population and see where we're at is going to make us make much better decisions when we go to build our new jail. So that's why we're like, and then the closer you get to doing this as we build the new jail, then the ROI becomes lesser as you get closer to the new jail. Like if we're breaking ground on the new jail tomorrow, for example, no, would we recommend doing this? No, it would be too late.
Right. Well, we all know we have no idea when they'll be breaking ground on a new jail, right? I mean, at this point, nobody knows. Um, you know, I appreciate your concern and wanting to bring justice to folks. I totally understand that. Having said that, during this pandemic, we saw our numbers go down. It's really about policy in many instances, and this is assisting policy, making policy easier. And I know like Judge Sheehan and other judges have worked hard to on bail reform and to during the pandemic make sure that those numbers were down. So there's ways of trying to keep those numbers down, and this would assist that process, I'm certain. But we also want to make sure that we do this the right way. And I'm chairman of Public Works, and I can tell you when Mr. Dever brings a project before me, we always make sure we have our I's dotted and our T's crossed, because we don't want to be coming back to something a couple years later. And something as important as this, we just want to make sure that we get right. And there's a lot of stakeholders involved, and we do appreciate all the folks who are here today participating, because I think that gives several of us on the committee a better understanding as to their positions that we had not heard prior to this date. And I'm appreciative of that. But I don't think, when we're talking a few weeks here, I think, it's prudent to get all the information, all the stakeholders and all the numbers prior to moving forward on something like this. That's my opinion on it.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am. I just like to make a comment to Ms. Tuma, Sonny, before. If we don't break ground on a new jail within 8 to 12 months, we are complete failures at what we do. So that's the number. If we don't do that, we have completely failed the taxpayers and this process. So that's where we're at. And that's a little trepidation that I have regarding moving forward too quickly, and just to see numbers. But anyhow, Ms. Simon.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, in the comments. I just want to say this lofty statement that justice delayed is justice denied is just not appropriate here. And I really want council to understand that the work that the Cleveland Municipal Court has done with pretrial services, as we heard the judge state, we're looking at a place to have somebody stay for up to perhaps 12 hours to get a first appearance. But we also have a first appearance docket, a FAT docket at the county, and the judge can speak to this, that at the longest, somebody's going to wait to have a first appearance, and that's if they get arrested on a weekend, is 2 days. So to talk about this justice delayed concept is really, I believe, misleading. And I really want to caution those kind of lofty statements. In fact, criminal defense bars, criminal defense lawyers will always say you don't want to push somebody, too fast, too soon. There needs a minute to get a handle on the case, and there needs to be a minute to get their judge in. There's a balance here. So please, when we use these terms loosely, we've really got to understand that that's not always the case, and certainly not the case with all the work that Cleveland Municipal Court has done with their pretrial services that provide. What I'm hearing is pretty much what you're looking to provide is an administration and spend $2 million on a build out alone. So, and that doesn't contemplate any of these other costs. And to come before us to ask us to approve something without having everybody on board is just, I believe to some extent, not even being responsible to give us all the information and to speak for other parties that they're on board. Let them say that they're on board. I don't want to, with all due respect, Mr. Corey, I don't want to hear it from you. I want to hear it from everybody in this Zoom call and everybody. And to think we're going to get 13 municipal courts on board before a jail is built is a pie in the sky. It's totally different than Franklin County. It's totally different from Cincinnati when we have different courts that are independent. And for them to have to drive downtown and go through this system instead of having it where they have it now makes completely no sense. And the Shaker judge said, the municipalities don't have money. They're stripped. They're not able to provide all the resources to start shipping their arrestees downtown instead of, taking advantage of what they have right at their fingertips. For example, South Euclid Court has a mental health docket. They have their own system that I believe if we listen to them is working. And maybe if we really want to use our resources wisely, maybe we need to help them fortify their municipal courts. Use this $2 million for that. And bail bond reform, because that's really the culprit here is providing help for these high bonds. And I would prefer to have these resources go to the municipal courts, and would ask the chair at some point to have a meeting with these judges and see what they need to help have justice in their own backyard instead of shipping it all downtown. Because let me tell you, they don't want to do that. They have to get officers off the street that they could be handling crime on their streets. Instead, they're going to be schlepping people downtown. This really doesn't make sense. And please, again, don't say justice delayed is justice denied, because that's not what's happening here, especially with Cleveland Municipal Court. That's going to be the bulk of who's going to be coming through this process. So those are my statements. I'm not going to support this, but I'm committed to having discussions with everybody and not just through one or two people from the administration speaking for a vast array of everybody. Thanks for the time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Simon. And Bob, to you, I see the list of stakeholders, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's just some of us, maybe it's all of us, but the council has never been talked to about this. It just, we've not participated in any meetings, and if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times since I've been in this seat, is that we're here to help the administration as best we can and not be some sort of a block in projects moving forward. There's nothing in it for us to be anything but those that watch the taxpayers' dollars. It would, I think, be helpful that one of the seats that should be opened up or at least expanded would be a member of the council that actually works in the courts, that does this type of work, that would have input in that committee of stakeholders. I'm just putting that out there because I don't think we would be here today discussing this if Ms. Simon or Mr. Tuma were one of our representatives on that board. I think that some of these problems that we're hearing today and 2 weeks ago would have at least been worked on and addressed a little bit. I have a ton of other questions, but I'm not in the courts. I'm not someone that knows the ins and outs of the municipal court. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's something that we should discuss offline, because I don't know if it's appropriate for me to make commitments on behalf of the executive with regard to the operations of how county council works with the executive. But I think we should absolutely have a discussion. I think it's clear from the discussion today that we need to do a presentation for a committee of the whole, let's say, of what the operation is, how it works, including the staffing plan, the preliminary staffing plan that was provided in the handout that I provided to all of you. And so we can show you when I, use aphorisms like justice delayed, justice denied, where are the days in the process that we could pick up, and when you multiply that by 365 days over a body of, an average daily population currently of 1,400 people, where you're going to pick up expedition in the process, all without rushing justice. Because again, the focus is not on case disposition, it's on arrest, appropriate charging, diversion, first appearance, all timely.
Right.
So I would submit that when I make a representation that all of the stakeholders that I've outlined are on board, I'm making that representation knowing that they're on the Zoom call and knowing that they can unmute and say, Bob's wrong. I'm not hearing that. So I wouldn't make those representations if the stakeholders that I've outlined are not on board. With regard to the suburbs, right? Judge KJ Montgomery is on this call, and they are not part of the initial work group because the focus is on the city of Cleveland, which represents the vast majority of the cases. And it is our thought, reasonable people could agree or disagree, that if we were to try to do this all at once in Cuyahoga County with the city of Cleveland and the suburbs, that we believe that the process would be doomed to fail. So what we're starting with is our current tenant and the city of Cleveland, which represents the vast majority of the cases that come through the criminal justice system. So I would submit that the money is well invested with regard to that process alone. And I believe that when we have the process that is completed, we'll have something to show the suburbs as Judge Montgomery outlined, that if you show them an effective booking process, they will be happy to come. That will be happy to come. And when I repeat things like that, it's because that's what the stakeholders have told me.
And if I might, Bob, I think you're right. Again, it is not the court. We don't care where they schlep the prisoners. However, already, and Sonny, I love you so much. I haven't seen you in so long. Hello. But many of the suburbs are already schlepping their prisoners. All 5 of my municipalities, with the exception of Beechwood, are renting jail space at Solon. They've all shut down their jails. They're already, if you will, regionalizing and paying rent somewhere. That's the police departments, not the courts. So do I believe that the county's approach of Cleveland coming in first and showing what there is to offer is a good one? This is just my personal opinion, and you don't have the other judges here, but it sounds like if it's a good approach for Cleveland and county, you can then show the municipalities what they're not getting by renting jail cells from Solon.
And Judge, I think ultimately that what you're saying is exactly the selling point from the county to the outlying municipal courts, is that we're going to have to show that savings. I'm pretty confident we can show those savings. And there's going to be savings on our end as far as the general population of the jail. And I put the asterisk on that, 24/7 booking.
Right. But keep in mind that you're dealing with law enforcement and not the 14 courts, because we don't care where Pepper Pike takes their folks.
Right. But my point is, listening to you, is the bottom line is our selling point is going to be is look what we've done. Where we're at is we're a little bit, once bit, twice shy here in starting to build things out with a cost. And that escalates and it gets out of our hands. Next thing you know, it gets worse and worse and worse. And we want to avoid that. We've historically, we've been pretty good, but we've hit some major glitches and we don't want to do that again. And Bob, I will say that you can go back to Mr. Budish about a council person being on this group or this committee. But I might suggest to you right now that if there isn't a council person with knowledge of the courts on this group or committee, that meetings like this are going to continue on. And I don't want to waste my time in situations like this. We like legislation presented, ready to go. I don't even know when someone's brought in who's the psychological medical person that's going to be evaluating people. What's that cost? Where do they take that person? There's just so many loose ends here that it just seems to me that maybe going the MOU route, and that's not my call. That'll be a call between the executive and leadership. I would be more comfortable with that. And I understand it takes time, but things that are worth it take time. And I'm seeing this thing as just not buttoned up to the point of moving forward election-wise. Anyone else have a comment?
Mr. Chair, just quickly to the Judge Montgomery, thank you so much. It's great to see you. And I would love to have our own kind of discussion with the judges, municipal judges, and then the municipalities to see about the cost. I do know that Euclid is schlepping down and they're not happy about it, you know, having to take their officers off the street and go downtown. You know, I envision perhaps some regional places like Solon and have the county fortify that, you know, down the road, but that's just a discussion and there's so many moving parts. I appreciate your input. I know you've been at the helm of justice reform, Judge, and I've been watching your work, so thank you so much.
Other committee members? Other stakeholders?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Marty Flask.
Yes,
City of
sir.
Cleveland. I just want to confirm that the assertions made by Mr. Corey regarding the Cleveland Division of Police buy-in to this project was spot on. We've had the chief of police, his staff, folks in public safety look at the process. The only enhancement that we thought was important to the centralized booking process was to give a workspace to those officers so they could expedite, prepare reports. We viewed it as an enhancement to getting people before the court as quickly as possible. We recognize that we will have some staffing impact by having people do and actually be there, displace them from where they're currently working. But that is not a significant challenge or a cost when we look at the benefit of this project altogether. But I just want to confirm that Mr. Corey's statement about the Cleveland Division of Police buy-in was, again, totally accurate.
Then you wouldn't have a problem with an MOU?
We already have, Mr. Chairman, as you know, after a decade of hard work through the leadership of the council executives, city council, and the mayor, and the county executive, we have entered into an agreement, and we do pay a per diem cost. But that agreement is, I think, is beneficial to both the county and the city, but probably more important, it's a benefit to the individuals who were taken into custody by the Cleveland Division of Police. You know, there has been a few bumps with the jail processing and booking, but those problems are behind us. I think the county's done an outstanding job meeting the needs and expectations of the city of Cleveland in regards to what we refer to as centralized booking.
Well, I would suggest going forward that we're going to be looking at the numbers and coming up with a fair cost, because we're not there. As you well know, we are far below what a fair cost would be. So in introducing an MOU to make that understood, I think might be important at this time.
Councilman Gallagher, this is Lisa Williamson. I'd like to also say on behalf of the County Prosecutor's Office that we likewise support this effort. I think one thing that is important to remember in this is that right now we have felony offenders who are spending at least a minimum of 1 to 2 days in jail awaiting appearances. This would mean that many low-level nonviolent offenders who are a large part of our jail population would be spending virtually hours in jail. And that's the main thing that I think we all need to keep in perspective here, that's a very important aspect of this. The County Prosecutor's Office has committed its resources toward this effort and has pledged to provide county prosecutors to the central booking environment where needed, including up to 24/7 if that's what is decided by the group.
Okay. Anyone else from the committee or our invitees?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Mr. Tuma. Mr. President Jones.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm very glad that we have so much of the system here today. I think this is the proper approach and process to make sure that we fully understand. Much has been enlightened for me in our conversation today. And I didn't expect anything more than to have a dialogue today. I did not expect for us to solve all of the problems in this one committee meeting. But we have taken a next step forward of hearing more, getting more insight from everyone around this subject. It's my hope that that we keep this, the legislation is here in committee. It's my hope that we keep it in committee for a time and just hold it and allow the conversations that are needed to take place and to determine what the next steps are. But my recommendation is that we just stay here where we are until we know a little bit better from everyone what that next step is.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate everybody being here with all of your input. And it seems to me that the most important place to have these discussions is going to be within that group of individuals that are on this committee. And again, Bob, I would ask you to speak with the executive regarding a member of the council that does work in these courts and understands it top to bottom, is participating. But it seems to me that it's just not anywhere near close right now to justify moving forward to building this out. Although I'm pretty sure that you can get there, because all it's going to take, I think, is the stakeholders agreeing. So I think it's what we call a ball back in your court. And again, I would like whomever that person is, if there is a seat for the council, if it's not the president, that individual report back to the president, myself, as to where we're going, where we're at, and what an anticipated time to get everybody comfortable to the point where we can move forward. I think we all pretty much understand the importance of this, and I think we all pretty much understand that we want to do it right. And nothing's going to happen going forward until this council's satisfied that it won't be a waste of building a building out that I anticipate will be pretty much worthless in 3 years, maybe 4. So that's another factor we're going to have to factor in. But I see where this can move forward if we have these individuals that are participating in agreement with your vision and our needs. So fair enough, or where are you at?
Well, you've outlined the challenge for us, and I hear you loud and clear. I don't know if there's. I still think that the county council would benefit from a full presentation on where exactly we are.
We'll get there.
Where we take you through. Okay.
Yeah, I anticipate.
Because I think there's a misunderstanding of how far we are along in terms of the process and the preliminary outline of staffing requirements.
We don't have that, but we also, I don't need a presentation of what it's going to look like. I'd like a presentation of here's what it's going to look like, and here's where the important people are going to be, and here's the cost of that. I don't think you're there. But if you are, then we can have a different discussion. But you're right, and I anticipate bringing you in 2 weeks for the committee to hear your presentation, because quite honestly, that probably should have been the first thing we heard. But that's not our call.
We honestly did not know that would have helped at the time. We really believed that you had all the information necessary, or we would have been ready with the presentation then as we are now, but now we understand that you weren't, and we'll make sure that you have all the information.
Well, there's a lot of people here that evidently didn't have all the information either. And they're much more important, I think, than the council moving this forward. I want them to be part of this. We've made mistakes in the past, and we don't want to revisit those. And those have been before you. It has nothing to do with you, quite honestly. Sometimes not all this administration, but there was a lot of work put into the dispatches, and that simple process, which turned out to be a simple process, took 5 years. 5 years, and there's a lot of work by a lot of people put into that. But here we are. I'm comfortable that we're working pretty good. I think we need to condense that even more, and that'll be another battle and probably another 5 years. But unfortunately, it's time. So I think if you can get some understanding with the folks that are here that may not have been talked to or were talked to, but don't know the full extent of participation and costs, that would be helpful to the council and committee. I would recommend that we hold this in the committee until the presentation and an assurance from all those involved that they're comfortable moving forward. Does that seem fair enough?
Oh, to me, yes.
Yes, sir. Mr. Jones, how do you feel about that?
That is fair enough, Mr. Chairman.
Any of our participants want to let us know what they feel about that? Are we good?
Councilman Gallagher, I'm with the committee. I think we've been down this road before, and so it's not a discouragement to justice. I think we will behoove the residents of Cuyahoga County if we do it right the first time and make sure that everybody's on board and know what the costs are. So I'm with the committee on that.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing nothing else, we'll close this portion out. We'll hold this legislation in committee. We'll anticipate that presentation in 2 weeks to further help us understand anything that we don't understand right now. And we wish you luck, Bob. I know this is, you've put a lot of time and effort into this, and this certainly isn't a reflection on the program itself. It's just a reflection on the council being a little leery of making another misstep with an awful lot of money. And I understand the moving parts in this are many, and it's not easy, but as I said, it took 5 years with the dispatches, so I kind of know what you're up against.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Councilman, I just want to say thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure being part of the discussion. Thank you for look forward to coming back.
Thanks, Judge. I want to thank everybody for being here. We'll make sure you're all notified when anything comes before this committee regarding this project and any other projects that touch on your daily lives and the work you do for the people of Cuyahoga County and the city of Cleveland. I thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, resolution 2021-0048.
Resolution number 2021-0048, making an award on requisition number 2470 to a master contract with various providers in the total amount not to exceed $514,359.64 for interpretation and translation services.
Thank you. And who do we have speaking? Anyone here from the administration regarding this legislation? Is this
Chairman Gallagher, this is Michelle Pomerantz. I believe that Rhonda Gibson will be speaking to this item.
okay? Rhonda, are you available?
Actually, this is not my item for the correction center.
Mr. Chair, this is Janine. Sarah Baker was supposed to be addressing this item from juvenile court.
Sarah?
This is not a jail issue.
Oh, my apologies, Chairman Gallagher. This is Michelle Pomerantz again. I believe somebody from juvenile court was supposed to address this item.
Sarah's on the screen.
Anyone from juvenile?
Hi, Councilman. This is Anthony Hurst here from Cuyahoga County Juvenile Court, the legal department. I can speak a little bit to this, but I know Sarah Baker was supposed to, I believe she's on the call, but speak a little bit on regards to the fiscal portion of it.
Sure.
But basically this, I mean, my understanding of this is that this is the contract for obviously the interpreting and translators, for the court, the various divisions within Cuyahoga County, I believe juvenile court's on this. Believe domestic relations, probate, and these are for services for the interpreters pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code and the Ohio Rules of Superintendents. The Supreme Court of Ohio asked that courts use certified interpreters to be paid at the state's cost if it involves indigent parties, in cases where they may lose a civil rights interest, whether it be liberty, an incarceration case, or a children and family service case involving loss of parental rights, at least in the juvenile context.
Okay, questions from the committee? So this is just an advancement of an existing contract for another year, the date being January 1st, so we're a little bit late in this. We're not going to hold you responsible for that. I understand we're in a different world these days. Does anybody from the committee have any concerns or questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep, thank you so much. Since I'm haven't been on the committee overseeing these contracts, so I'm assuming these all went out to bid and we're extending and have an opportunity to go out to bid again on these contracts when these expire.
Mr. Hurst?
Yes, I do have knowledge. I can answer that. Yes, these are bid through the RFP system, and when these do come up for expiration, they do go out for to the public for another RFP process.
Okay, anything further? Any further questions? Well, seeing the timeline that we're dealing with, I would, without objection, move Resolution 2021-0048 to the full council under suspension of the rules. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved, Simon and George.
And
Second.
we have a motion, or we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you, Mr. Hurst.
Thank you very much, council members.
Resolution 2021-0049.
Resolution number 2021-0049, authorizing an amendment to agreement number 228 with the Metro Health System for correctional healthcare services for detainees in the county jail system.
You faded out there, Jenny.
My apologies. Do you want me to reread it?
Yeah, why don't you do that so we have it up?
Okay. Resolution number 2021-0049, authorizing an amendment to agreement number 228 with the Metro Health System for correctional healthcare services for detainees of the Cuyahoga County Jail System.
Okay, you faded out there again for the period 5/9/2019 to 5/8/2020 to expand the scope of services to add physical therapy services and to change the terms to modify Medicaid rate calculations for professional fees effective 2021 and for additional funds in amount not to exceed $3,027,040. Do we have Metro here? Or do we have the administration?
Yes, Councilman Rhonda Gibson here is here for the administration, and Donna Khalil.
Thank you. Rhonda?
Good afternoon, Council Member. This is Donna, and good afternoon, Council members. So this amendment is going to cover 3 items. First of all, it's going to add more funds into the contract. It's going to add physical therapy, which we currently had an outside physical therapist coming in we contracted with. But that contract has ended, so now Metro Health will be performing all the physical therapy in the jail. And the third thing, it's going to enable us to pay a flat rate of Medicaid charges for outside medical. previously, what one of the fiscal members did was they would go to what's called the Ohio Department of Medicaid, and there was a chart. And on this chart, there was codes, and the codes were associated with services. And these services, there'd be a Medicaid rate, and that's what we would pay Metro Health for outside medical for services. Well, now Metro Health is asking that we just pay a flat 22% because that chart is over 5 years old. It's not going to be updated. And Medicaid right now reimburses at 22%. That's the going rate. So what Metro's asking us to do now is when we pay them at the Medicaid rate, we pay at the same rate that Medicaid pays them. So that would enable this contract then to update that rate at a flat 22% for all outside medical. If I explained that okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
So to the chair, to Ms. Khalil, so we were paying based on a chart you're stating. Sometimes it could be more than 22%.
This chart was put out by the Ohio Department of Medicaid. Now, the last time it was updated was 2016. And my understanding is it's no longer even being used. There was times we were paying more than 22% and sometimes we were paying less. We did run the numbers, and on average, it seemed like we were averaging somewhere around the 15 to 17%. So this would be an increase in cost, but my understanding is there's also an increase in medical costs. And that's the reason why. That's why this old chart is so outdated and no one uses it. Now it's just at a flat 22%. But yes, it would be a jump in cost for us. I'm estimating somewhere around maybe $200,000 a year.
How much a year?
I'm estimating about $200,000 more a year for outside medical.
And you think this is a benefit because?
Well, Metro Health actually approached us, and they told us that they wanted us to start paying this 22%. Our attorneys, our prosecutor's office had been working with the Metro Health attorneys through the past year, negotiating this back and forth. But this wasn't something that we initiated. This was initiated by Metro Health because they no longer wanted us to use this outdated chart. They wanted the flat 22%, which is what Medicaid currently reimburses them at. So again, this was pretty much their call. Our legal team worked with their legal team, and this is what we've come up with.
So I'm just saying for the county as a whole, that's a benefit for us to pay 200 and some thousand more a year when we're not even at that rate.
Wait, I don't follow. Is it a benefit for us? I mean, Metro Health, if they send an inmate out to their facility outside of the jail, then we have to pay the Medicaid rate. Again, Metro Health is telling us the Medicaid rate is now 22%. It's no longer based on that old chart that was on the Ohio Department of Medicaid. They're telling us when they take one of our inmates into their facility outside the jail, that's what we have to pay. So this wasn't really our call. This was more Metro Health's call.
I know, but you were stating that it's actually going to cost us. There is going to be an increase in cost, which is 200-some thousand a year. So if we stay, so I'm just trying to understand if we stay doing the old system or can't still do the old system with the chart. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that Metro Health is telling us that these are the new charges, basically. I don't even think we have much of a choice, to be honest with you. This is what Metro Health is telling us, that the new Medicaid rates are 22%. So, and yes, it will be a bump in cost, and according to my numbers, about 200,000. But again, I don't know if we have an option here.
So has Greg Huth weighed in on that, the law director?
I know Brendan Healy, and I think he was working with Greg Huth, but Brendan Healy from the prosecutor's office was the one working with Laura McBride, which is part of the legal team for Metro Health. They were the two in negotiations last year discussing this. And then the decision came down to us, and we put it into the system.
Yeah, it's one thing if we have to, and they can show a reason why we have to. But to me, to increase a cost that we necessarily aren't paying already because someone else tells us to, I just think we need to check on that or have some.
Well, again, this came from the prosecutor. This came from Brendan Healy that, yes, this is what they have determined and this is what we need to do. Now, whether Greg was involved, I don't know, but I know Brendan was the one who actually told us to start the amendment. I wasn't in those negotiations. That was strictly between Metro Health and our attorneys. Do you want to weigh in, Rhonda? Did you have something to say?
This is Greg.
Yes, Mr. Booth.
For a second.
Yeah, and if we could, I have, let me see here. Oh, they're gone. Okay. The back, we had some people that weren't muted and I was gonna ask them to mute. Are you on Nora Hurley's?
No, I signed in individually.
Yeah, if she would mute, please, I'd appreciate that. Go ahead, Greg.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, this is Ashley. It's actually, the feedback is coming from Rhonda's. So I have to mute them every time they stop talking.
What's going on there, gang?
I think it's the way they dialed into the Zoom. Sometimes that will happen, so I have to mute them every time they stop talking.
Okay, you know what? We'll deal with that. But going forward, let's try and clean that up over there. It seems when you get into a big room and you're sharing like you are, it gets kind of lost. So that would be helpful if we could maybe get into a smaller room and do our presentations that way, so we don't get that background noise. It's confusing. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, Brendan and I were working with the legal team over at Metro to get this issue worked out because the Medicaid rate has changed over the years. So we went with this 22. It seemed like a kind of a realistic number going forward. But the critical piece that's in the contract is there's a look back. So every 6 months, we're going to go back and evaluate the actual cost compared to what we paid and what the Medicaid reimbursement rate actually was. And then if we need to adjust it going forward, we're going to be able to do that. So we're going to be paying what we would typically pay for the Medicaid services, and we had to come up with some percentage to put in the contract, but we have the ability to adjust it going forward depending on what the expenses actually are.
Yvonne, are you okay with that?
Okay. Mr. Law Director, will we be reimbursed if it's not the 22% that you're saying? If it doesn't cost us the 22%, we won't pay that out. Is that what you're saying?
Councilman, the president of the council, and it's either going to be a reimbursement or we'll apply it to future charges, one way or the other. Just whatever makes most sense at the time.
Okay, can you keep this committee updated on that as we move forward?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? Do you have anything further, Rhonda?
No, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hearing nothing further and looking again at the dates, it would behoove us to, well, wait a minute here. We're moving this, March 9th is our date? No, that was 20, yeah. Is it March 9th? Rhonda, is the effective dates March 9th?
No, the effective date for these invoices was when they started. Basically, some of the 2020 invoices are being held right now, which Metro asked us to do until this was resolved. So really, we are holding some of the invoices, I think, through half of the year of 2020 that were not processed yet because they want them processed at the 22%.
Okay. So you would recommend us moving forward expedited?
Are you speaking with me, sir?
Either one of you.
I guess I would recommend it because again, this is, I don't know how much say-so we would have in something like this.
Okay.
So,
Okay. If there's any concerns with the committee moving forward in an expedited manner, let me know. If not, I would move resolution 2021-0049 to the full council under suspension of the rules. I'll accept a second.
Second, Simon.
Simon, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you very much. Thank you, Rhonda. Okay, miscellaneous business. In 2 weeks, we will bring Mr. Corey back with that presentation from DLR regarding the program that they're putting together. Is there anything else anyone has? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.